Across the globe, in every culture and every age, humanity has grappled with one profound, inescapable question. It is a query that has shaped religions, inspired art, and haunted our quietest moments. It is the ultimate mystery, the final frontier of our understanding, a veil through which no living soul has peered and returned to tell the tale. We spend our lives building, striving, loving and learning, all under the shadow of this great unknown. But what happens when the vibrant, complex machinery of life finally ceases to function? The heart stills, the lungs fall silent, and the intricate dance of neurons in the brain comes to a halt. Is this simply the end? A final, silent curtain call on the brief performance of our existence? Or is it merely a transition, a doorway to another state of being, one that we can only speculate upon from this side of the threshold? The possibilities are as varied and as vast as the human imagination itself, ranging from heavenly bliss to eternal torment, from serene peace to unending chaos. What truly awaits us when we take our final breath? Tonight we shall not seek comfort in tales of paradise, but instead we will venture into the shadows of speculation to confront the more unsettling prospects that have been whispered throughout history. We will explore the 10 darkest possibilities of the afterlife, journeying into theoretical realms of eternal night, unending regret and profound solitude. Join me as we peer into the abyss. Our first possibility is perhaps the most primal of all fears, the concept of utter and absolute cessation. Imagine, if you will, the moment of death, not as a gateway, but as a final, unyielding wall. The light of consciousness, which has burned so brightly throughout one's life, is simply extinguished. There is no journey, no judgment, no reunion. There is only a profound and unending void, an eternal darkness, more complete than any night we have ever known on earth. It is the absence of everything. In this state, there is no sense of self, no awareness of time passing, for time itself would cease to have meaning. The rich tapestry of memories, the joys, the sorrows, the triumphs and the failures, all of it dissolves into nothingness. It is not sleep, for sleep implies an eventual awakening. This is a non-existence from which there is no return. The universe continues its majestic silent dance, but you are no longer a part of it, not even as a silent observer. The very idea challenges our innate sense of importance. We live our lives as the protagonists of our own stories, and the thought that the story simply stops with no epilogue is a deeply unsettling one. All the love we have given and received, all the knowledge we have acquired, all the struggles we have overcome, it would all be for naught, erased as if it had never been. The silence that follows is not peaceful, but absolute. It is a chilling thought that the vibrant, complex ecosystem of a human mind, with its capacity for art, science and love, could be reduced to the same state as an inanimate stone. There is no pain, no suffering, but also no joy, no peace, no anything. It is the ultimate entropy, the final return to a state of cosmic indifference. For many, this is not a peaceful rest, but the most terrifying prospect of all. The finality is what makes this concept so profoundly dark. There is no chance for redemption, no hope for a second chance, no possibility of understanding the grander cosmic purpose, if one even exists. It is the simple, stark and cold reality of an ending without resolution. The universe, in its vastness, simply moves on, and the space once occupied by a life becomes an eternal, silent void. Now, let us consider a fate not of nothingness, but of a strange and lonely persistence. This is the world of the wandering spirit, the soul untethered from its mortal coil, yet unable to move on. These are the echoes of lives cut short, of business left unfinished, or of attachments so strong that they refuse to break even in death. They are said to haunt the familiar landscapes of their former lives, invisible to most, yet forever present. Imagine being trapped between worlds, a silent observer of the life that continues without you. You might see your loved ones grieve, grow old, and eventually forget while you remain unchanged, a prisoner of memory and place. The world moves forward, seasons change, cities rise and fall, but the wandering spirit is caught in a timeless loop, tethered to a specific location or a lingering emotion. There is no peace here, only a restless, perpetual state of being. These souls, as the stories go, are often driven by a powerful, unresolved force. It could be the burning desire for vengeance, the deep sorrow of a love lost too soon, or the simple, confusing shock of a sudden demise. They are said to roam old houses, battlefields, or lonely roads, forever searching for something they can never find, a way back or a way forward. They are the ultimate outsiders, belonging neither to the world of the living nor the realm of the dead. Their existence would be one of profound frustration, to see but not be seen, to hear but not be heard, to reach out and find your hand passing through the very people and objects you long to touch. It is a form of solitary confinement where the walls are not made of stone but of the very fabric of reality itself, a constant painful reminder of everything that has been lost with no hope of ever reclaiming it. This is not a peaceful vigil but a sentence of eternal observation. The spirit is left to witness the relentless march of time, a ghost in the machine of the world. Each sunrise brings not hope, but another day of the same spectral existence. It is a chilling portrait of an afterlife defined not by judgment or oblivion, but by a lonely, unending and powerless watchfulness. From the desolation of wandering, we turn inward to a realm constructed entirely from the architecture of our own minds. Consider an afterlife where there is no external judge, no tribunal to weigh your deeds. Instead, the soul becomes its own eternal prosecutor, judge and jury. This is the possibility of endless regret, a state where one is forced to relive their greatest mistakes, their most shameful moments on an infinite loop. Imagine being trapped in a cinema of your own making, where the only film ever shown is the moment you hurt someone you loved, the opportunity you were too cowardly to take, or the cruel word you could never take back. You would experience the event not just as you did then, but with the full crushing weight of hindsight. You would feel the pain you caused others as if it were your own, understanding the consequences of your actions with a clarity you never had in life. This is not a simple memory, but a perfect, high-fidelity recreation of the past. You would see the look of disappointment in a parent's eyes, hear the tremor in a betrayed friend's voice, feel the cold emptiness of a selfish choice over and over again. There is no escape, no distraction. The experience is all-encompassing, a constant, inescapable reminder of your failings. The torture is not inflicted by demons, but by the ghost of your former self. In this realm, time is not linear, but cyclical, forever returning to the point of transgression. Each repetition does not dull the pain, but sharpens it as the soul yearns for a different outcome that can never be. The hope of changing the past becomes the very instrument of torment. It is a deeply personal hell, tailor-made from the fabric of one's own life, a labyrinth from which the only exit is the one you failed to take when you had the chance. The profound darkness of this possibility lies in its intimacy. It suggests that the greatest punishment we could ever face comes not from an external deity, but from within. It is the realization that we are and always have been our own harshest critics. To be left alone for eternity with the worst parts of yourself is a fate of psychological torment so complete, it is almost impossible to fully comprehend. Let us now envision a more structured, yet no less terrifying afterlife. A vast, cold and impartial chamber known as the Judgement Hall. Upon death, the soul is not left to wander or regret, but is brought before a cosmic tribunal. Here, in a place devoid of emotion or mercy, the entirety of one's life is presented for examination. Every thought, every word, every deed, from the most noble to the most secret and shameful, is laid bare. There is no room for justification, no plea for understanding. The evidence is presented as it is a complete and unerring record of your existence. Imagine standing in a great silent hall, perhaps before beings of immense ancient power, or perhaps before a disembodied cosmic force. The scale of the place is designed to make you feel insignificant, a single, tiny data point in the grand ledger of the universe. The judgment is not based on human laws or moral codes, but on a set of cosmic principles that may be utterly alien to our understanding. An act of kindness might be weighed against a moment of silent envy. A lifetime of piety could be negated by a single hidden transgression. The criteria are unknown and the process is absolute. There is no appeal, no possibility of a retrial. The terror of this hall lies in its cold, bureaucratic indifference. It is not a place of fire and brimstone, but of chilling, silent assessment. The soul is stripped of all its defenses, all its self-deceptions, and is forced to confront the unvarnished truth of its own nature. The weight of every lie, every selfish impulse, every moment of cruelty is felt with an unbearable heaviness. It is the ultimate audit from which nothing can be hidden. And what comes after the verdict? That is perhaps the greatest fear. Is it assignment to a realm of reward or punishment, or is it something far stranger? Perhaps the soul is deemed unworthy of continued existence and is simply erased. Or maybe it is recycled, its energies repurposed for the cosmic machine. The Judgement Hall is a gateway, but the destination it leads to is a terrifying cliffhanger in the soul's journey. In some ancient traditions, death is not a punishment or a reward, but a cleansing, a stripping away of the self. This brings us to the river of forgetfulness, known in some mythologies as the Lethe. Here souls are not judged or left to wander, but are submerged in waters that wash away every trace of their mortal lives. It is a journey into a state of pure, untroubled oblivion, a blank slate. Picture a slow-moving, silent river flowing through a grey, featureless landscape. The souls, like pale leaves, drift towards its banks. There is no struggle, no resistance. There is a sense of inevitability, a pull towards dissolution. As the soul enters the water, the vibrant colours of memory begin to fade. The face of a loved one, the sound of laughter, the warmth of the sun on your skin, all dissolve like salt in water. The process is not painful, but it is a complete and utter annihilation of identity. Everything that made you, your personality, your passions, your history, your name, is erased. The very concept of I ceases to exist. The soul becomes an empty vessel, a form without content, devoid of the unique story it once carried. It is a death after death, the erasure of the spirit itself. What happens to these memoryless souls? The myths vary. Some say they are reincarnated, reborn into new lives with no inkling of their past existence, destined to repeat the cycle of life and death, accumulating new memories only to have them washed away once more. An endless cycle of becoming and unbecoming with no progress, no accumulated wisdom. Each life is an isolated island in an ocean of forgotten time. The darkness here is subtle. It is not about pain, but about meaninglessness. If every life is ultimately erased, what is the point of living it? What is the value of love, of learning, of growth, if it is all destined for the river? It suggests a universe that is not cruel but simply indifferent to the individual stories that play out within it. The river of forgetfulness offers a strange kind of peace, but it is the peace of absolute emptiness. While we have explored the torment of regret as a psychological loop, this next possibility is far more visceral. Imagine a realm where your inner guilt does not simply replay in your mind, but physically manifests upon your spiritual form. This is the torment of guilt, an afterlife where your own conscience becomes your literal physical torturer. Every misdeed, every harm caused, creates a wound that never heals. In this realm, a lie told in life might manifest as a searing brand upon the soul's tongue. A betrayal of a friend could become a heavy, unbreakable chain wrapped around the heart. The weight of a secret shame could feel like a physical burden, a crushing stone that one must carry for eternity. The landscape itself might be a reflection of the collective guilt of its inhabitants, a barren wasteland under a sky of perpetual twilight. The pain is real, inescapable, and directly proportional to the harm one has caused. It is a perfect system of self-inflicted justice. There are no external demons with pitchforks. The torment comes from within, made terrifyingly real. A soul that caused great suffering in life would exist in a state of constant, unbearable agony, its form twisted and scarred by the physical manifestation of its own sins. This is a world without forgiveness, because the wounds are self-perpetuating. As long as the memory of the transgression exists, the pain remains. It is a dynamic, living punishment. A soul might try to move to find respite, but the very act of trying is hampered by the chains and burdens of its own creation. It is a state of being where one is perpetually confronted with the physical consequences of their moral failures. The true horror of this possibility is the inescapable link between action and consequence. It suggests that the moral fabric of the universe is absolute, and that every ounce of negativity we put into the world will be returned to us, not in a metaphorical but in a literal, agonizing form. It is a realm where the soul is trapped in a prison built from its own guilt, with no hope of parole. Our journey now takes us to a place not of pain or judgment, but of endless, maddening confusion. This is the labyrinth of lost souls, a vast, ever-shifting maze with no center and no exit. Upon death, souls find themselves wandering its corridors, not as a punishment for their sins, but simply because they have lost their way. They are untethered from purpose, adrift in a sea of meaninglessness. The labyrinth is not made of stone and mortar, but of shifting realities, memories, and half-formed thoughts. A corridor might be lined with doors that open into moments from the soul's past, but they are distorted, nightmarish versions of what truly happened. Another path might lead to a vast, empty chamber that echoes with the whispers of other lost souls, their voices a confusing cacophony of despair and confusion. The very geography of the place is designed to disorient and demoralize. Each soul in the labyrinth is fundamentally alone, even when surrounded by others. They may pass one another in the endless hallways, but they are so consumed by their own search for an exit, for a sign of meaning, that they cannot truly connect. They are islands of confusion in a vast archipelago of despair. The primary goal is simple, to find a way out, but the maze itself seems to conspire against them, changing its layout, leading them in circles, offering false hope in the form of dead ends. The torment here is not physical pain, but the slow erosion of hope. At first, a soul might search with determination, convinced that an exit must exist. But after an eternity of walking, of turning corners only to find familiar yet subtly changed passages, a deep and profound weariness sets in. The search for meaning becomes meaningless itself. The soul forgets what it was even looking for, and simply wanders out of a bleak, eternal habit. This afterlife represents the fear of a pointless existence stretched into infinity. It is the ultimate state of being lost, not just physically but spiritually, to be trapped forever in a puzzle with no solution, to search for a purpose that was never there to begin with. The labyrinth is a monument to cosmic indifference, a place where souls are not punished but simply misplaced, forgotten in the grand, confusing architecture of the hereafter. Let us now descend into a world of perpetual twilight, a place drained of all vibrancy and warmth. This is the shadow realm, an echo of the living world, but muted, grey and cold. It is not a place of active torment, but of deep, pervasive melancholy. The souls who dwell here are not in pain, but they are mired in an endless state of apathy and low-grade despair. It is a world where all strong emotions have been bleached away, leaving only a dull, persistent ache of loss. The landscape of the shadow realm is a monochrome reflection of our own. There are forests, but the leaves on the trees are shades of grey. There is a sky, but it is permanently overcast, with a sun that gives off light but no warmth. There are cities, but they are silent and empty, their structures seeming more like gravestones than buildings. Everything is a pale imitation, a reminder of the vivid world that has been lost. The inhabitants, the shadows, drift through this world like smoke. They retain their memories, but the emotional charge is gone. They remember love, but cannot feel it. They remember joy, but cannot experience it. They are aware of what they have lost, which makes their current state all the more bleak. They might interact with one another, but their conversations are listless. Their connections thin and fragile, like spiderwebs. Hope in this realm is the scarcest commodity. There is no great struggle to overcome, no clear enemy to fight. There is only the slow, grinding erosion of the spirit. The greatest danger in the shadow realm is not an external threat, but the internal slide into complete and utter indifference. To simply stop moving, to fade into the grey landscape until you are indistinguishable from the dust and the dusk. This possibility is a terrifying exploration of depression eternalized. It is an afterlife where the soul is not destroyed, but is slowly, inexorably diminished. A slow fading rather than a sudden end, to exist forever in a state where you can remember happiness but never again feel it, to be surrounded by the ghosts of a vibrant life in a world that is nothing but a colourless photograph of what once was. Of all the social creatures on this planet, humans are perhaps the most dependent on connection. Our final dark possibility before the dawn strips this away completely, leaving the soul in a state of absolute and total isolation. This is not the loneliness of a crowded room, but a profound cosmic solitude. The afterlife of the echoes of loneliness, where the only company you have for eternity is yourself. Imagine a space without features, without light or dark, without up or down, a silent, empty void. In this void drifts a single consciousness, your own. You are not a wandering spirit in a familiar world, but a disembodied mind in a realm of pure nothing. There are no other souls, no beings, no environment to interact with. There is only the endless, uninterrupted stream of your own thoughts. At first, this might seem like a state of peace, a chance for introspection. But time here is infinite. You would relive every memory, analyze every conversation, ponder every philosophical question, not once but 1,000,000,000 times over. Your own mind, your own history becomes a prison. You would tell yourself the same stories until they lose all meaning, becoming just a sequence of sounds in the great silence. The true torment begins when you run out of new thoughts, when every memory has been examined from every possible angle. The mind, desperate for new stimulus, might begin to fracture. It might create phantom companions, only to know with crushing certainty that they are not real. The silence would become deafening, amplifying the echoes of your own consciousness until it becomes an unbearable noise. This is the ultimate solitary confinement. It suggests that a consciousness cannot survive without external input, without connection, without another being to validate its existence. To be left entirely alone with oneself for eternity is to face a slow, spiraling descent into madness. It is the fear that, in the end, we are utterly alone, and that this solitude will stretch on long after our world has turned to dust. After our long journey through these shadowed valleys of possibility, after confronting the bleakest prospects the imagination can conjure, we arrive at our final destination. It is not another realm of despair, but something else entirely. Here in the deepest part of the darkness, a faint light appears. It is distant, enigmatic, yet undeniable. It is the possibility of hope, the light beyond. This is not the promise of a guaranteed paradise or a heavenly reward. It is far more subtle, more mysterious. It is the suggestion that even after the most arduous trials of the afterlife, after the wandering, the regret, the judgment, or the loneliness, there is something more. A destination for those who persevere. A conclusion to the story that is not an ending but a transformation. What is this light? Perhaps it is the chance for redemption. A place where the soul, purified by its trials, can finally find peace, where the wounds of guilt are healed and the chains of regret are broken. A state of being where understanding is finally reached and the purpose behind the suffering is revealed. It is the dawn that finally breaks after the longest, darkest night of the soul. Or perhaps the light represents reunion, the convergence of all the lonely paths. The souls who were lost in the labyrinth find their way. The spirits wandering the earth are finally called home. The echoes of loneliness are silenced by a chorus of voices. It is the possibility that the connections we forge in life are not erased, but are the very threads that guide us towards this final, collective destination. This glimmer of hope does not negate the darkness we have explored. It coexists with it. It suggests that the journey through the afterlife may be fraught with peril, but it is not without purpose. The light is a testament to the resilience of the spirit, a faint but persistent signal that even in the face of oblivion there is a chance for peace, for reunion, for a final profound homecoming. It is the ultimate question mark, but one that is tilted ever so slightly towards the light. We have journeyed through the theoretical landscapes of what may come after, from the silent void of eternal darkness to the faint, beckoning glow of a distant light. These are not prophecies, but possibilities, constructs of our deepest fears and our most profound hopes. They are the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of the one certainty we all face. The truth, of course, remains the most closely guarded secret in the universe, waiting for each of us at the end of our own unique path. The variety and intensity of these concepts reveal more about us, the living, than they do about the dead. They show our terror of meaninglessness, our deep-seated need for justice, our yearning for connection, and our fear of being alone with the worst parts of ourselves. The afterlife is a mirror, reflecting the values and anxieties of the human condition. Whether it is a place of judgment or a place of peace, we seem to agree that it is a place of consequence. Perhaps in the end, even the darkest night gives way to dawn. Perhaps the journey itself, with all its potential for sorrow and struggle, is what ultimately gives the destination its meaning. The final chapter of our story remains unwritten, a blank page awaiting our arrival. What we choose to believe about that final chapter says everything about the story we are trying to write today. What do you believe awaits us beyond the veil?